UAE leaving OPEC? Who do you think is freaking out the most? OPEC? Maybe not. Or could it be the United States? Because the UAE's departure from OPEC this time is like a test of the $1 system. It's an economic war, not a military one. Or could this be a sign that China is actually winning this game? Or maybe it's something else entirely. It's like carefully loading a single bullet and putting it right on the table for the whole world to see. The United States, which has always claimed that the UAE is a steadfast and close personal friend and a good ally, ended up starting a war right in their own backyard, to the point where the UAE couldn't even sustain their own basic livelihood. In this clip, if you keep listening, you'll see a completely different perspective. Why exactly did they agree to sell their oil first? Why, from the very beginning, is it only fools who would agree to sell something with real value, like oil, in exchange for paper or US dollars? In this clip, if you listen, you'll realize that the countries selling oil aren't stupid at all, not even close. You can support the UAE Leave OPEC clip from the Sai Monster channel by scanning this QR code. Or you can easily support the Sai Money Monster segment by liking, sharing, and commenting to chat with us. And what I'd really like you to do is hit subscribe, so next time I upload a video, we can meet again. Thank you. The United Arab Emirates, or UAE, is actually one of the founding countries of OPEC, a true pioneer, a founder since 1967. But now the UAE has announced its withdrawal from both OPEC and OPEC+, effective from May 1st. As for the reason, the UAE's Minister of Finance said it's because oil prices have been so volatile. When it comes to the economy, we can respond better if we're not tied to this group, if we're not in this pack anymore. Still, there's doubt about their reason. What's really going on? They've been together so long, and oil prices have been volatile before, but there was never a sign they'd leave. So why now? If you're addicted to the news, you'll start to notice that. Hey there, listen, we strongly suspect that it must be because of China. If we start by making a hypothesis, why would the UAE Leaf Group have any kind of significant connection to China? When it comes to oil right now, anything that's on the opposite side of the dollar, like cheap oil, they simply do not want to sell in dollars anymore. It's all connected to China, starting from Venezuela and Iran. It's all about China, and especially OPEC, which is the foundation of the dollar's stability. So it doesn't look like the dollar will make it through this time. China is definitely heavily involved because the country that's most extremely on the opposite side of the dollar in the world is China. And let's take a look at this timeline. It's honestly spot on. It all started on April 14th when the Crown Prince of the UAE met with Xi Jinping in person. This news means that the UAE had decided to lock in its relationship with China. Then, the very next day, on April 15th, the UAE and China signed a joint trade and investment agreement. All 24 agreements were signed at once. These 24 agreements are meant to push the trade value to exceed $100 billion. Seriously. And this news about signing trade cooperation agreements and all that, do you know what it's like? It's like the UAE and China are teaming up. Like, hey, you hold the gun, I'll load the bullets. Click, click, click. And then what? They don't shoot? They just close it up and calmly place the gun on the table as a challenge? Show. To the world or to the United States? I've already loaded the bullets into the gun, just like this. And on April 19th, the Wall Street Journal published an article called The Yuan's Risk. You know what it's like? It's like, oh, the gun is loaded and put on display, all set. Now we have to start asking questions like, look at this. The gun is loaded now. Do you have anything to offer us? Like this. And when we follow this timeline, we start to feel like, wow, this is what it feels like when superpowers negotiate with each other. They don't even have to meet face to face. It's like they just create a situation for you to see and then ask, so, do you have any good offers? Something like that. And on April 22nd, the timeline was really intense. Scott Bessent, the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, announced right in front of the Senate that they would approve a currency swap line for the UAE. What does a currency swap line mean? To put it simply, it means handing over U.S. dollars to the UAE. And if you look at CNBC, there was an interview with Donald Trump, his voice coming in over the phone, talking about the currency swap line. Like, hey, is that true? Or something like that. Why do we a currency swap line with the UAE? They're already super rich. Should we really help them or not? Or what? Donald Trump said that the UAE is a good ally, which is kind of surprising, honestly. I mean, we didn't really think they'd be affected that much. If things are getting shaken up in their own backyard and they're not impacted, that would be weird. So he said that he thinks they should get the swap line they need. There was a lot of criticism about the currency swap line that the United States might approve for the UAE because the UAE is rich. Why would we help them even more? But Donald Trump insisted that the UAE is a good ally of ours. If they need help and I can help, we will help. Then, the next day, Scott Bessent came out to reinforce this point again, saying, hey, making a currency, the swap line is meant to maintain order in the dollar market because it helps prevent a sell-off of dollar-denominated assets. Do you know why? Because it's not just the UAE. Actually, all the Persian Gulf countries hold U.S. assets, dollar-denominated assets, bonds, and so on. Altogether, they hold about $2 trillion worth. If they all decided to sell off together at once, it would definitely have an impact on the market. Maybe not immediately, but probably in the medium term. But then, on April 28th, the UAE announced it was leaving the group. They left OPEC anyway. And this whole thing is pretty wild because the UAE wanted a swap line, and the US said, okay, we'll give it to you. But in the end, the UAE still left the group. See, Scott Bessent was ready to throw them a lifeline, but the UAE didn't take it. And do you know what Scott Bessent said after that? He came out and said, China's an untrustworthy trading partner. Yeah, that's spicy. So with this, we wanted to know more. Like, why is that? I mean, the US made such a good offer, so why did the UAE still decide to leave OPEC? That's basically like choosing China's side, right? There are actually about two reasons, and they're not that complicated. The first reason is that the United States started the conflict. How am I supposed to want to be friends with them? The second reason is about asset exchange. Countries in the Persian Gulf, starting with the UAE, are beginning to realize that trading real limited value assets for US dollars, which can be printed without limit, just isn't fair. Let's start with the first reason, which is pretty straightforward. The United States started the war, to the point that Iran ended up closing the Strait of Hormuz. So if you ask, when Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz, who was in the best position? You might say, wow, Asian countries are the unluckiest if you look at it from the perspective of those buying oil that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. But it's not just the buyers who get the short end of the stick. Aren't the sellers even worse off? Because if I can't do business, I don't get paid either. Now, the oil sellers in the Persian Gulf who have to transport through the Strait of Hormuz, who are they? The UAE, Kuwait, Qatar, and Iraq. Saudi Arabia is affected too, you know? I've actually made a video about Saudi Arabia's economy before, and it's not doing well. They're still relying on oil sales to help sustain their economy. If you watch that video, you'll see, wow, this is gonna hit them hard. And the US, the one who started the war, is telling everyone that the Persian Gulf is a good ally of the United States, you know? What kind of friends are we if you come and start a fire in my backyard? The smoke drifts over and I can't make a living. And when I can't make a living, what happens? My people still need to eat and use things, so what do? I have to dig into the country's emergency reserves. I have to use our savings, right? Until it gets to the point where I just can't take it anymore. I have to say, if you don't help me, if you don't send a currency swap line, then I'll just sell off all my assets in US dollars. So everyone's got to deal with it. Things are getting intense. Even if my friend says, okay, I'll send you a currency swap line, I'm already upset. I can't take it anymore. I'm out. If I leave the profit now, you have to be careful. Other OPEC members might leave too. So then, why is America afraid of the gang leaving OPEC? Well, it's because when one country leaves, there's a chance others will follow. OPEC is really important to the stability of the US dollar. Let me explain this from the beginning. OPEC was actually established alongside a financial agreement, a monetary deal that, to be honest, was originally made in secret, called the Petrodollar. Now, it's not a secret anymore. People have known about it for a long time. Since 1971, when President Richard Nixon of the United States announced the removal of the gold standard, the US, right? So the US dollar no longer had gold backing. Then they started thinking, hey, how can we make people still want to hold dollars? So they came up with this idea. Make it so that people have to get US dollars if they want to buy oil. That's how it went. And in 1974, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger flew to Saudi Arabia and made the Petrodollar agreement. At that time, the Petrodollar deal was a secret agreement. They didn't announce it publicly. The world only found out when Bloomberg submitted information through the FOIA in 2016. That's when the whole world started to know. And also when the Petrodollar agreement expired in 2024. They didn't really intend to tell everyone that the Petrodollar agreement had ended and that Saudi Arabia didn't renew it. Back then, I even made a news clip about the Petrodollar agreement expiring, but after I made it, not even. 34 days later, there was a wave of news saying it was fake news, that the Petrodollar agreement hadn't actually expired. I was so confused, hey, I already made the news, so how should I fix it? And I even put on the cover that the Petrodollar agreement expiring was fake news. But actually, it wasn't fake. It really had expired. Back to the topic of the Petrodollar agreement, the agreement itself was pretty simple. They agreed that Saudi Arabia would have to price every drop of oil in US dollars. And once Saudi Arabia sold oil in dollars, they had to take those dollars and lend them back to the United States. That means they had to buy U.S. government bonds in exchange for military assistance that the U.S. would provide to Saudi Arabia, serious, no-holds-barred support. After that, OPEC was established, which was a coalition of all the oil-producing countries in the Persian Gulf, right? In order to enforce the petrodollar system, OPEC's role is to manage the world's oil supply, maintain discipline among oil-producing countries so that oil prices are set only in dollars, and to be able to increase or decrease the oil supply as needed to control global oil prices. If you notice, this system, OPEC came into existence because the US dollar no longer had anything backing it. OPEC became significant on the day the dollar was no longer backed by gold. On the other hand, OPEC will continue to maintain this system, setting oil prices in dollars, only as long as, and not just because of, military support alone. But only as long as the US dollar can still successfully persuade and convince the world that the dollar is sufficiently valuable and stable enough for OPEC to want to sell real, limited resources in exchange for an unlimited supply of dollars. Honestly, quite a few skeptical people must have thought that only fools would agree to trade truly valuable assets for mere pieces of printed paper. But let me tell you, oil-producing countries are definitely not stupid, not even close. So what's happening now is that this other group, might mean that the UAE is the first to start realizing that trading oil for dollars is no longer worth it. And one of the most crucial things the United States absolutely has to maintain is the credibility of the US dollar. They appear to be sufficiently valuable. Otherwise, it might lead OPEC to believe that there is no longer any real need to maintain their collective unity to enforce discipline in selling oil in dollars anymore, right? Actually, this idea might never have come up at all if there wasn't a country offering a currency that's more valuable: China. Now, I'm not saying the yuan is worth more than the dollar, don't get me wrong, but what China did was create the gold corridor, right? And they made a promise that the yuan could be exchanged for gold. So did anyone question, like, hey, should we really trust China's promise? Of course there were people who doubted it. Can China really be trusted that much? Who knows, right? But as of now, what China is doing is allowing the yuan to be exchanged for gold through the gold corridor. And China is probably selling this concept to its oil trading partners, saying, since you're selling a limited resource, wouldn't it be better if you exchanged that resource for another limited resource? It's fairer. So at this point, you might wonder, if China is hitting the US this hard, why doesn't America just go all out against them? China has already made several moves, but the United States still relies on them. China's global monopoly is rare earths. In this video, we're just talking about those. Check my previous video for more details on how China monopolizes them and to what extent. The point is, the United States really has to rely on rare earths. Of course, there are other aspects too, like technology or AI, but in this video, we're talking about war. So we'll only focus on military dependence. Without rare earths, you can't produce missiles, you can't wage war. There have even been media reports questioning whether Donald Trump's periodic ceasefire orders were related to this. Is this actually a strategy, or is it just a way to save missiles? Does the United States even have enough missiles left to use right now, considering how many they've been firing? According to CNN, the US military has used up a significant portion of its key missile stockpiles during the conflict with Iran, and it won't be able to replenish these stockpiles for at least another 5 to 6 years. So if the US refuses to agree to a ceasefire, it could very well mean that America is firing off more ammunition than it can actually produce to replace. And if you ask whether the UAE leaving OPEC could destabilize the status of the US dollar as the world's reserve currency, it's certainly a distinct possibility. There's another reason that strongly supports this particular idea too, which is government bonds. In the United States, right now, the market situation is kind of weird. There's this strange, almost perfect timing. Every time the 10-year US government bond yield hits around 4.4%, it directly affects the ceasefire negotiations involving President Donald Trump. Let's look at this timeline. On March 22nd, the 10-year bond yield hit 4.4%. That day, the bond yield went up because President Donald Trump said they were going to attack Iran's oil infrastructure, so the bond yield shot up. At that time, investors were really panicked. Like, whoa, if that's the case, if I borrow money, I'll have to pay more interest. So the bond yield surged. But then, on Monday, Donald Trump said, no, we're not going to attack, not going to attack, not going to attack. Everyone felt relieved. And just like that, the bond yield dropped. And on March 24th, there was a flurry of votes. The 10-year bond yield shot up to 4.4% again that day. Donald Trump came out and said, peace is real. We're going to negotiate with Iran. But then on March 25th, literally the next day, Iran announced they wouldn't talk. So the bond yield surged again. On March 26th, the bond yield finally climbed back up to 4.4% once more. What did Donald Trump do that day? He announced a halt. He stopped the attack. Yeah, and this is actually really scary for the economic and financial stability of the United States, because everything I just told you is about the story of the UAE, just one country, leaving OPEC. And the UAE, they said, right, that if America doesn't stop waging war, they're going to have to sell off American assets to get cash to use, right? And don't forget, the countries that are being affected by the war, by inflation, by everything that the United States started, it's not just the UAE, you know? All the countries in the Gulf region have been affected, and other countries around the world are affected too. And don't forget, the US dollar has always been the reserve currency, so it's not just the UAE, and it's not just the countries in the Persian Gulf either that are holding US assets as their main reserves, like trillions of dollars. Other countries that are grouped together also hold a significant portion. And if those countries threaten to dump US assets as well, because after all, they need to eat and use resources too, the question is, will the United States offer currency swap lines to those other countries as well? If they do, it might help stabilize things in the short term, but in the long run, they'd just be burning themselves. And what if US bond yields go above 4.4%? What would happen then? Because honestly, if at 4.4% Donald Trump gets startled every time, it means that even America itself can't handle paying interest rates much higher than around 4.4%. So all of this isn't a military war anymore. This is clearly an economic and financial war.